All right, this is intro to ProjectWise from taking local projects to ProjectWise server on our data source here, DJNA prod. We have our granular level. This is the main folder you're going to be working in right here. Before we get started, make sure you start a new work area. You won't be able to create one. Only the IT staff and certain power users will be able to do this. So get that going with IT, and that will also cue a moment for them at the same time to either archive or to put read only the, let's call it the local drive. In this case, we've been calling it colloquially the F drive, but the local drive, usually AKA the F drive. So, and it might happen to the drawings folder, GIS, and survey. Right now in these next videos, we're mostly going to be concentrating on the drawings folder right here. So at that same time, make your work area in ProjectWise, alert IT, they have to do that. That's a trigger for you to also, be forced to do that, and also forces IT to make these project folders read only as needed. We're only going to be concentrating on everything, all things in the drawings folder for this video series, but there's a little overlap, mainly with taking local projects at a certain completion point in AutoCAD or Bentley products and bringing them to ProjectWise and retaining those same dependencies. So these help videos are primarily for taking local files to ProjectWise, but there's some overlap. GIS and Survey are on their way. GIS is about there. Survey, we have some things to work out with our other software, ProjectWise Drive. We're going to be primarily using ProjectWise Explorer interface, but there's some programs that aren't integrated fully with Trimble Business Center where we're still working on solutions to best use that. But primarily this concentrates on everything in the drawings folder, DGN, DWGs, Bentley, or Autodesk. Okay, so the very first steps, and this is predating, you already have ProjectWise Connection Client installed, you have ProjectWise Explorer installed, and ProjectWise Drive installed, and all three of them configured. Tom and myself and the IT team have developed documents for those to walk you through that. So this is assuming you have all those things done. You will need to get ProjectWise Explorer running, you'll have to have Connection Client running and on. That's your login assistant. So that has to be going, which anyone who's using ProjectWise knows that. And ProjectWise is on, you'll have your Azure Windows password to sign in, your same login credentials as Windows and Autodesk. So that's going. Now, the very first thing we do is a couple things. IT has made a ProjectWise folder, or a work area, excuse me, and you're ready to bring all your local files to ProjectWise. So there's some different icons. This icon here means it has back-end integration with ProjectWise Drive. Most of our folders will eventually look like this, especially when we get GIS, Esri products, and Trimble more in sync to ProjectWise. They're going to look more like this. If it looks like this, no big deal. That means it's only ProjectWise Explorer, and that might be the case. So don't mind that symbol, but there's a slight difference there. That's for myself and power users and the IT staff to know that, which integration has been done. That helps us out. But for your purposes, it doesn't matter too much. This is our project. I have some old tests in here practicing best practices for all of this. So don't mind that. This assumes you'll have some blank folders. What you should have in here when IT makes this, they're probably just going to have 3 blank folders. One's going to be drawings, one's going to be GIS, and one's going to be survey. So these will probably be in there. And this is where you're going to drag and drop your stuff from the F drive. So let's go to the F drive or the local drive. We're going to drag and drop everything in this folder, over. Now this is a great time to start cleaning up the barnacles of your project before you drag and drop it over, because you'll see soon it takes a lot more linkages and time. And also it's just a good touch point to do a little maintenance, do a little learning of CAD instead of just dumping every folder, file, hundreds of old folders and redundant files. I have this job pretty neat and tidy. I have my design drawings here. I have my certain attachments and PDFs and imagery and Excel links. I have my data shortcuts in here and one budget sheet. That's a little different, but here's my data shortcuts. mainly in here. That'll come later. My sheet production files with my sheet sets, my title block embedded in all the sheets in different, there's 5 different sites, and details. And sometimes sheet production sheets like plan profile sheets and stuff will be in here. And I have my PDFs, a chain of them internally printed at different dates. So I have this drawing. This is a good example of cleaned up. You might even blow out a few of these old folders. Like maybe you have a year's worth. Let's leave some of this stuff behind, delete them out before you bring them to ProjectWise. We can delete them out after we get them onto ProjectWise too, but do a little cleanup. Get it so it's looking good. So you don't have a bunch of error files. For example, if we go to a project that's about to go in ProjectWise from local El Portal, not a bad choice, but it's about to go. We have a lot more files in this. So you might clean out this stuff here. This looks like a CTB that's needed, for example. These are fine, but you might go into your design folder and delete out these barnacles, like these plot logs, these error files. You might delete out some backup files for now that we don't need. Some old pre-designed files that can be left behind. Some of them, like I said, can stay here and be deleted out in ProjectWise later, and these can rest archived on a local drive forever after. Keep in mind that once you have IT make a work area, at the same time, they're going to be locking down this to read only. So try to clean up these folders right at the same time or a little before you're making your request to the IT staff to make a work area ProjectWise for this project. So you can actually do that in Windows Explorer view. If you don't get to that point, you can also clean it up in ProjectWise once everything is uploaded. Myself and IT are keeping track of drawings or projects going on ProjectWise in a capacity, which ones have drive integrated, which projects, who's the lead, who is which folders, and which ones have been archived and left behind, or which ones are just read only. So we're doing certain things to make sure that we don't have data in 2 areas. So please do the same to pay attention to that stuff. Clean up your files, and then once they're clean and ready to go, all you really do is the highest level folders, so it should pretty much be right here, right here in this case. Let's drag and drop them into drawings or into this white space. I'm in the drawings folder for this project. Drag and drop them. Give it a second to think. You'll see this dialog box. Make sure you include subdirectories so it gets everything. It's in our DJNA data source environment. It'll show how much space is needed in the server. Don't worry about that. It's just how much is going to upload. That sometimes is nice to see that though. Hit OK. Give it time. It's going to take a little bit. Let this run. There's one step I'm going to recommend for conciseness after all this stuff uploads to ProjectWise from a local to do before we get too much further. It's going to help us with our data shortcuts later. It seems to work a lot better. There's other methods, but we're going to try this one first in most cases. We're basically going to delete out our data shortcuts in ProjectWise after all these files upload. So let's give it a few moments and come back and go to the next step. So this can also take a little while. You can see it's not going lightning speed here. So another reason to pare back your drawings and your contents in your folder before you upload it to what you really need. While I wait for them to finish uploading, I'm going to log into my AutoCAD or Autodesk Civil 3D 2022. You're probably getting used to seeing this. I have 2 different data sources, a different company and DJNAs. Make sure you have DJNA picked, the authentication Bentley IMS, and log in. This is a full integration program. There's many programs that are fully integrated. One is Autodesk products. Another is all Adobe products, all Bentley products, all Microsoft Office products, to name a few. Bluebeam as well. There's a few that we're working at our company that are not, but those are dialog boxes. And when you hit open, things like that, if you're having problems with the integrated dialog box is not coming up, hit up Tom or myself. We can get you some info on ways to kick the program in the butt to make sure you're getting these dialog boxes through ProjectWise to open from disk, or to, it helps you guide you to the ProjectWise folders through your local better, more or less, when you're saving and manipulating files. So as we wrap up on the last couple files here, make sure it's looking good, nothing fails. But IT you may ask them to do this as well, especially if it's bigger and they need to keep a kind of babysit it. It's okay to ask them to do this, but do clean up the files you don't want to get transferred and get everything cleaned up beforehand. They won't know all the ins and outs of that. So IT could do this step to the initial copy paste of local to ProjectWise if you would like, but let us know on that. Okay. So it just wrapped up. Everything's in here. So first thing, I don't have anything in the DGN folder Bentley-wise this time. It's all in Autodesk products. I usually have a structural folder in here, but civil too. First thing I'm going to do. So I have all my stuff left behind on the local drive. It's archived or locked out and read only, and it has a note like this. Maybe it says use ProjectWise. We're all on ProjectWise, something to cue you. The next thing is this is going to help with data shortcuts later. And this should be the person that knows where and how the data shortcuts were done, not just someone willy-nilly kind of carte blanche, wipe this out. Someone that kind of knows where they're at. So what does that mean? Where do they usually go? Typically, they go in this folder here, working folder, right? So most of our production has our site maps in here and everything related. Aerials, our design base map files in here. Could be several, all known attachments to those files in here. Working folder could have some interesting other things, possibly analysis and other various things, but it has our data shortcuts as well. Sheet production is our typical plan and profile sheets, detail sheets, possibly cover note sheets, other miscellaneous sheets, our sheet sets, our DSTs, our DSDs, our plot jobs within sheet sets possibly, and other various things related to that. And here's our PDF plan set print with different dates. This is kind of our internal PDF prints on the life of this project. And each one of these folders can have an old folder inside too. So back to the working folder. Here are my data shortcuts. I know where they are. They're all three of these folders, a little more than I would like. I'm going to delete these right now. We're going to delete them off. You'll find out more why later. Hit delete, let them delete. It takes a second to do this sometimes, to delete files permanently off of ProjectWise. If anything comes up and says, do you want to delete, say yes. Okay, all the project data shortcuts are out. It's on ProjectWise. We're ready to sync up some dependencies now. So the first big step, and I will email these out kind of side by side. I have a document with a lot of best practices, a Green Book Advanced Best Practices. I'm loading up right now, and I have a YouTube video, Lesson 8, Handling of CAD Documents in ProjectWise and Scan Reference Utility. These are good supplementary materials. I'll share the URL and the PDF in a SharePoint location at our company. And these are my best supplementary information is this page or this YouTube channel, and also this document. So I'm going to go to page 1. It looks like this in the beginning. It's 34 pages. It gets even deeper. So I'm going to cover a lot of stuff in here. It's just about using data shortcuts and various other things, using some tools in the ProjectWise ribbon here that are related to ProjectWise integration and various things like that. So we're going to bop back into this a little later, mostly in the data shortcut area, but there's some other tips and tricks with ProjectWise and best uses of Civil 3D as well. Let me close one of these sessions of Bluebeam so we can go back to that. The first big step is we're going to try to repass some dependencies. So what is a dependency? We have what we call a dependency viewer here in ProjectWise Explorer. So this is ProjectWise Explorer, right? Another thing to look at is not only that, that's going to see when we get these dependencies back linked. is to open up here called the local document organizer. It's very handy. If you use ProjectWise Explorer on the daily, have it open at all times so you can see what you have checked out. If you have things checked out and someone else comes in and they have to wake you up early the next day on your day off, you're not going to be happy with this. So try it. It's a system to show what you have checked out so others, you don't hoard them and forget to check them back in. Don't be that person. Be careful what you have checked in and out. So the next person that comes in potentially doesn't have to do a save as or do a copy paste or contact you and you go in there when you're not in the office. So try to keep this open to be mindful when you're working a lot of folders and files, what you have checked out and don't. And as you'll see a little later, some things check out when you don't expect it, like a sheet set when you have it open, like a data shortcut file. So just have this open and pay attention. It keeps you aware, and it's easy to forget if you're working on a complex project what you might have checked out. So have that open up here, local document organizer. Let's start by exploring our files that uploaded a little bit. So one thing to look at, these are all just clean, untouched uploads, right? Right from the local drive. You see these symbols here mean a lot. This means it's available for checkout. A red check mark would mean it's checked out. If you went and looked at someone else, not your own, red check mark means you have it checked out. If someone else saw it on their ProjectWise Explorer, they see a little lockbox symbol here, and there could be other symbols too, but the big symbol is this one, this little paper symbol. These you'll see later when I add dependencies back with our scan reference utility tool. You're going to see a little dependency icon here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Right now that it does not have those. So let me go into an old test I did yesterday and days before to test out the functionality of ProjectWise. I'll show you what one looks like. It's just a small thing, but it kind of shows if you know what, for example, which design drawings have external references attached. That would be a dependency. You'll see this little icon. It's really hard to see here, but perhaps I can do a zoom in. With this. So that's what it looks like. See that little looks like a little symbol to the lower right. It shows the dependencies inside the drawing. So that's a good thing to see. If you don't see that, that means they haven't been reestablished or re-upped yet. So outside of that, let's go back into our raw folder, brought everything in. You don't see those dependencies. Let's click on a file. These are our design files. On this dependency viewer, I know I have 3 XREFs at least, or 2 or 3 to this. They're not here. So when things are successful, one good thing with ProjectWise, it'll show the string of dependencies. If you get a really complex file, I can show you one here in a sec. It's in the dowel server on me and Braden's project. I'll show you how complex they can get, but it's helpful. So this is me going between 2 different data sources. Let me go to a fairly complex project file. This one I know I have a ton of dependencies, maybe 7 disciplines attached to it. And you can see it has a ton of dependencies, reference data shortcuts. And this has some of the XREFs and also the data shortcuts. And then within this alignment file, there's these files attached to it. Within this mapping file, there's these aerials attached to it. But all these are a big chain of events. And none of these have dependencies to them that came to this file because they're in the overlay fashion, not in the attachment fashion. So this is really helpful. It's one powerful thing of ProjectWise is your dependency viewer. When you copy paste, say this really complex drawing, this roll plot to another project in ProjectWise, you can do it such that it takes a moment, but it will retain a lot of these dependencies, which is a really powerful thing with Bentley and Autodesk products, keeping those linkages and dependencies. So going back to DJNA's data source, we have our drawings. So the first thing I'm going to do, it's what's run through in this YouTube video, is using the scan reference utility. Now is a really good time to do it. And that's also why I deleted those local data shortcuts before I run this utility. So we found that usually works better to do that. There's a couple ways to bring data shortcut functionality back, but this is the preferred way to start. So if I opened up a design drawing, those data shortcuts should be gone. I'm going to open it up by double left clicking through ProjectWise. You can also open it up by opening through the app. I'd recommend that a little more as you get used to ProjectWise. You can do both. So it obviously lost the XREFs. You can see the dependencies of those are gone because it went from local to ProjectWise. So we're going to try to fix some of that stuff. Some of the fields aren't working. The sheet set is, let's try to go open that. That will not be working. So if we go to sheet production, it is this job, I know, Edgewater on ProjectWise. It's going to take a second to open. It's missing all these linkages to my sheet set. So that's another dependency we're going to try to fix. Okay. How far along your project is also a telltale how hard this is going to be. So rewind real quick. Bad projects, I would not recommend doing this. It's obviously easier to start a project on ProjectWise brand new, easier than anything else. If you have a tight deadline, you don't have any time to shift all this stuff to ProjectWise, this is a little, can be involved, the bigger the project it is especially. I would consider to keep it on local for a little longer. If your project, the next caveat, if it's close to completion, like at the 100% phase, the CD phase, record docs are about to go out, construction docs, I would maybe consider ending its life on the local. And maybe in the next phase, you pick it up, bring for the next project phase, bring it all to ProjectWise and start over again. Just be cognizant. This is a little intensive, but not impossible. Don't be scared to bring projects to ProjectWise that have been started already. It totally can be done. Just know that your tight little timeline might get affected, and maybe do it at a strategic point in the project. So think about that stuff. It's not irrelevant, but it also at the right time, take the risk to bring things to ProjectWise. It totally, you can bring all these linkages back. There's just a little time involved. So my XREFs are not pathed anymore. My data shortcut is a little jacked up. It's having trouble finding references. It kind of went to ProjectWise. You can see that. It kind of got jacked up there. It's likely from the old project I already had, the set working folder. So the last one I was testing, one thing I'll show you after we get our data shortcuts reloaded, we'll go back, we'll set the working folder to where we recreated them. So this is an old working folder to somewhere else. Working folders they path to your C drive local ProjectWise address, much like you would path to your working folder in a local drive. The same thing, just different spots, okay? So setting your working folder, new data shortcuts project folder, and then creating data shortcuts, the same 1, 2, 3 step. This being the first step, this being the second step, new shortcuts folder, and the third step in your source drawing where you want to make the data shortcuts, say a sitemap or wherever these objects are in Civil 3D, that's the third step. You create those. And then you go into your destination drawing and create data shortcuts in those destination drawings. So data shortcuts work just like they do in a local. It's just when you bring a project from local to ProjectWise, some of the linkage is lost, just like your XREFs you see here. Okay, so that's all I'm trying to say. Next step. Let's just showing a little background there of what is going on inside the drawings. Make sure before you run this step you are checked out of all drawings. This is critical. So make sure you're free. Do free the drawing. You can also do these icons up here or right-click contextual. I prefer the right-click contextual. Free means it's not going to save anything. It just releases it. So free does not mean save. Checked in means save. Let's hit free because I didn't really do anything. And yes, I want to free the document. So make sure you have everything checked in. Not anything touching this project is not checked out before you run this utility. Now, let's go to the highest level folder in this job, which is this drawings folder, or you could go to this level. I would not recommend that. I would go to your drawings folder level. because if you have a survey folder in here, which you may, okay, and we will in the future, there's going to be some survey drawings and other stuff in here. We're only going to pertain to this drawings folder, okay? So this is the key. We're doing all of our linkages here. Right click. I'm going to go slow here. This is the key step. Go to scan references and link sets. So everything's checked out or checked back in. Nothing's checked out. You'll get errors if you do have things checked out, what we're about to scan. So don't do that. I've tested that. It does happen. We'll hit next. We're going to leave these checked to specify scan options, scan for master, DGN link sets. DGN link sets are kind of like XREFs in a way. Also, if you have Revit files, it's going to scan for links, and Revit links are pretty much like external references are to Civil 3D or AutoCAD. References are the same thing as external references to Civil 3D. They're all talking about the same things. Links, references, external references. That's one of the main things between all these softwares. Hit next. Scan master files and folders. So this one, it already goes to the project. We already right clicked and started this. This is exactly where we want it to go. We don't want to rescan anything else at this point. Generally, you want to get granular like this on one project at a time. We'll hit next. We'll hit this, check that same project, and you can get application specific here. For example, we know we don't have Geopack and Inroads. I generally would just pick all of these. If you get better at this, we know we have Autodesk products, PDFs, Excel sheets. Let's go to AU, Autodesk. So we have some Autodesk stuff here. Just check all for now. Hit next. We can do a priority search. I'm going to leave this checked right here, but I don't want to prioritize other ones at this time. There's been some benefit. If you enable priority search, you've got to bring a folder. So you might say, I want to have the priority go to a deeper level. Here, okay? That might be my priority. I'm gonna say, if you don't know on this one which one to prioritize over another, just leave it alone. You don't have to turn it on. So let's remove that. Hit X and not enable. There's no priority. If you don't know of a priority, if you know of a folder that has all the dependencies and it's attached going to all these, pick one, but otherwise don't. This one, click this, yes, search subfolders and references. This one, just to stay in this folder only, in the drawings folder only. If you want to go one level up, all the way up to the project folder in this case, which would go to survey, drawings, and if you had a GIS folder, you would select this one. If you want to find, maybe if you have XREFs all the way to the survey folder. If you want to go 2 levels up, that will go all the way to the projects folder. It would scan all projects. I would not recommend doing that. I'll show you one more trick if you have external references or references in, say, not just this project, but inter-project to a different one. There's another method. We could go to adding a search area, so you don't have to search every DJNA project. So that would take forever. We haven't tested it fully, but it isn't fast. So this is your typical settings here. And I showed you some options for these 2 settings to alter that. We'll hit next. We're ready to scan. So if you wanted to go to a different project that you knew was referenced to a project above, outside of your project number, you would go and do this. Go back a couple. And you would enter a priority search to these folders. Let's say I had a folder in a different project I knew it was attached to in this East Rosebud. I might say, let's check out this one too. Okay, this is where you can add more. But if you don't have that, don't do that. This one is all contained within this folder, this project, I know that. So that's just for when you have a more complex project that reaches to dependencies outside of the project. Next, we're ready to scan. Let's let the scan begin. It's going to process one document at a time, look for dependencies, look for errors here. If you see any errors because of external references or things checked out, I got an error last time when I had something checked out and it kind of bogged that file down, had some problems. Pay attention to errors that come up, but otherwise let this run. Another reason to clean up your folder before it goes to ProjectWise, if it's massive and 3 times the size it needs to be, this just takes longer as well. So we've gotten about almost 2 minutes in and we're about halfway done. I had one error. I don't know where this one came from. I definitely didn't have it checked out. I have been running this project many times, testing all the bells and whistles and the things to hit or not. It might have something to do with that. I tried to keep everything contained in this folder and all the old tests in this one. So let's see what happens with that. So here's the end of our scan for references and link sets, XREFs and link sets with like Revit. We had one error. I don't know where this one came from, but you might see these. Who knows? It's probably because I had it open a minute ago. It's probably because I am in the drawing. So also, even though I checked it in, I was in the drawing. So that's a bit annoying. So don't be in the drawing. I had it checked in. So don't be in any of the drawings. Don't have any of them checked out. This DST was somehow checked out. Okay. So that is a key thing. Don't be in anything before you run this scan utility. It's possible once I'm out of everything, you could try to rerun it again with the same settings instead of having to just because were in a file or something. I'm going to give that a try just for experimentation purposes. All projects, drawings. I'm not going to enable priority search because I only have this one folder. And I'm subfolder folders and references, master files. Okay. I'm not even going to go as far as closing CAD. This time. Just some things to pay attention to so it runs better. For finding your references, let's hit scan. I'm going to pause it, of course. Let's see if I get any of the same errors. It's definitely going a lot quicker the second run. The last one took almost 6 minutes. This one's almost a fifth of the way through in less than 30 seconds. So shows you could probably do it a couple of times if you want to. And no errors so far. And it's almost a third of the way done. So it did go a little faster the second go round. It succeeded on most, failed on none this time, and skipped a few. Found some rasters. It found some no link sets. It resolved a bunch of references between files. So it did some stuff, basically. Let's hit close. That is done. That's a key step. And prior to delete the data shortcut. Now let's go into some testing, look at some things. Let's open up Civil 3D again. I'm going to log into my data source, DJNA. Let's get ProjectWise Explorer going. They recommend a lot of people actually opening through ProjectWise. That's one recommendation I see. So this document I'm going to make privy to you guys for more advanced Civil 3D stuff with ProjectWise. The first 13 pages just about are how to use data shortcuts and other things. That there are some differences with ProjectWise, but for the most part, all things data shortcuts that you make on ProjectWise it's very similar to doing it on a local. So the first 13 pages give you some tips and tricks, but it's mostly stuff if you know how to manage data shortcuts, manage moving drawings cleanly, knowing where to put data shortcuts and all that stuff. It's a little different with ProjectWise, but the first 13 pages are a little more deep with that topic. So you don't need to skip them; they're there. But the final page 13 through almost the end is different things with data shortcuts and best practices with sheet sets on ProjectWise, a few tips and tricks, deep advanced tips and tricks for folks like me, CAD leads and other stuff, but people that use drawings a lot, some tips and tricks of best practices. I'll cover just a few. One being this data shortcut stuff. So let's open some of these drawings and take a look what all happened. So you should see some dependencies populated in any drawing that has external references to one another. So for example, when I click on these two, they found their dependencies. The title block, this is the design drawing. It went to the sitemap in the title block. So you can run this multiple times. If you have some errors or mistakes, you can run scan references and link sets multiple times. I just did it twice. And honestly, I did it in the background this time 3 times because I saw some discrepancies. I paused the video and checked it again. So I ran it a 3rd time, and I'll show you one setting I changed. So let's look at some of these sitemaps. Edgewater has a PDF attached. See, it's finding, I'm in the dependency viewer. This is good. I want this to happen. These don't have dependencies. These ones are just standalone sitemaps. If I go to sheet production, let's go to my DSTs. These ones I'm kind of interested to see how they look. Okay, so these should have a ton of dependencies. My sheet set files, they're going to a lot of drawings to pull in the sheet sets. Edgewater details should not have much, just a edge of water, aerial, and a title block. All of them should have a title block. So let's see. My Edgewater, my sheet sets should have a lot of dependencies. So it's going to this details sheet, the design, and then the design has stuff under it, the sitemap, and this. So this worked. I'll show you one key thing I found that really worked for this one that found a lot of these dependencies and relinked them in all spots through the drawing. So the more complex the drawing, you can see how much that saves you time. I went to this folder. Let's do it one more time. This is worth repeating. I went to scan references and link sets, because this is, I think, 90% of the time what you'll be doing. You'll be keeping your scan and priority search within here. There was one thing I had to do to get those to kick in the butt on the next scan. Select these, hit next. Select master folder is that highest level drawings folder, unless you want to scan above, but this is our most typical example. Scan only within that project. Do select this. Do select all applications to cover all your bases. Hit next. Enable priority search. I added a folder here. This was helpful. I noticed when I didn't add anything here, it didn't find a lot of my XREFs. So what I did was I went to projects. I go to this job, and I'm trying to skip this folder because I have other test runs in there. So I'm really focusing on this one. You may very well do the highest level folder. I wouldn't recommend it. You might get some slosh from the survey and some other spots. Mostly stick to your discipline, whether it's surveying or engineering in the drawings folder or in a GIS folder or local folder. So stick to this one. So I added this. This is what helped a lot. Having this checked, and I doubled. I don't know why for sure, but once I ran it a second time with this on, it found a lot of the dependencies. And then I still had this selected in the master file, which is this one I selected, and I hit next. Proximity, then priority, I left that alone. I don't know all the ins and outs of which one before the other, so let's stay out of that. And remember, if I go back one, you can go up a couple levels to a higher level. But if you're looking in another project, I will repeat this, another project somewhere else up a level with a different number, feel free to add that here. Some other project you know it's linking to. That will relink things to a project above. Not most of the time the case, but it does appear to work within one project very well. but do have something here in the priority search. That seems to help. We've already done that. Leave this. If you find better ones here, please let us know. And then hit scan. We've already done the scan a couple of times. I'm just reiterating the importance of getting all those boxes checked. If you get one wrong, if you have some errors, make sure you have CAD closed, nothing checked out. You know, don't be scared to run it again. It doesn't appear to hurt to run it 2, 3, 4 times. It only found the links. So if you have to run it a second time, that is okay to run the scan references link set wizard. Okay, let's go into some of the drawings. First things first, we should see some linkages like we just saw earlier. That's a good thing to see if it did its job, the link sets. So you should see that symbol, like I was saying before. Which looks a lot like this. See that little symbol on there in the lower right corner? That's a good sign that a lot of our links and our XREFs were found. So let's start by opening one of these up just to simulate what you'd be going through. Let me shut this off. And let's open the Edgewater sign. I'm going to double click it this way. It's dependencies. This is pretty key. This could be changed maybe in our back end, but generally it's saying, oh, there's these XREFs it found. That's good that it found them. We don't want to do read only here. We actually want to open the Edgewater design non-read only. So do leave that alone. You can also get a right-click contextual menu to open as read only. Don't do that unless you want to do it. Open with a different program, maybe a different version of Autodesk. You can set that, check out, copy out. Refreshing local copy is a good one. Update server copy, if it was available, is a good one if you want to kick the changes up to your project team. But let's just start with open. This, unless you want to check these out, this sitemap, title block, and PDF, don't. Just copy them out. It's going to access them. So if you see this and you don't really need to check them out, you just want them to come with your design drawings, just say copy out and hit OK. I've seen with Dowel, their system, it doesn't have that dialog box, so that might be something we can eliminate in the back end. If you see something like this, the sheet set association has been lost, don't hit remove. Let's go mess around with this. Hit ignore. Don't remove it. Let's see if we can salvage it. So all my external references are found. My sitemap is found. My title block is found. And the PDF within the sitemap is found. Boom, those are done. And it did them in all files. So if you had 50 files, it would have got them all. Do check some of your fields to see how they're operating. Those could go by sheet set. They're finding this sheet set, so that's a promising thing. If I go to the sheet set, it does appear to be going to ProjectWise, to this ProjectWise C drive associated local servers, so that's a good sign. We'll go to the sheet set next. A lot of these retained, a lot of these are within, these fields are within, and they're going to certain things like current sheet. These ones aren't, a lot of them were set as current sheet type title, fields that kind of carry through with this drawing even if it's not local anymore. So those all look good. I should have some interference with my data shortcuts. Yep, they seem to be working, but it says surface is out of date. So if you make edits in this surface now, it's probably going to be out of date. So you'll probably see stuff like this. This is going to an old working folder, so don't mind that. But that's typical to see this with your data shortcuts error sign out of date. We could experiment with that in a second. Let's look at our sheet set. Let's try to open it through this way. One recommendation towards the end of this doc is not to do this, to open it. I haven't had any problems with it yet, but we could try to follow their guidelines here and try to open the sheet set through ProjectWise. I know it's in the sheet production folder. And I know this is my project here, so let's try to open it this way. I'm not used to open the sheet sets this way, but give it a minute. Maybe this is a good thing to do. Let's give it a shot. So it's opened and checked out. Sheet sets sometimes peskingly will stay checked out when you don't know it. So pay attention to what you have checked out in your local document organizer. It's now checked out. So they don't really open anything. I'm going to hit cancel on this. I want it to stay open. So I opened it by data clicking in my sheet set through ProjectWise Explorer, but you really have to open it here too. So it did open it. So that's the recommended method. At least the first time is to, the first time you open your sheet set, double click it, open it, copy all things that it's attached to out. If you have a complex sheet set, it might be going to many drawings. Let it do that. Say copy out, hit OK, let it run, let it check out, like so here. And when you come back in your drawing without even leaving the drawing, they should be all found. See how it's repathed to the DMS location on ProjectWise there. I can't quite go to it, it'll disappear, but it's down here. That's a good thing. It's finding all these. Another thing, it says it doesn't recommend you open these drawings through the sheet set. I find that it works in general. It says ProjectWise advanced stuff says it recommends you opening by double clicking the files. I opened this detail file here through the sheet set. It says it recommends opening it this way, or double right clicking, excuse me, left clicking, or you could open it through the dialog box of integrated with ProjectWise and Autodesk this way as well. So I haven't seen a big flaw in that. That the sheet set one, opening the sheet set the first time through ProjectWise is a good one. I used to have to kick it in the butt, and these would have question marks and not be found. That method was very helpful. So my sheet set's rocking and rolling now, live on ProjectWise. Now, all that's really left is my data shortcuts. So let's save this and check these guys out. Let's go check so the key is, where are your data shortcuts? Where's the source file? And that, the only ones I have as data shortcuts where the source is are in my sitemaps for this job. So I'm going to open one of those files. And if you go to page 13 of importing, this is the step we're going to take to import a data shortcut project from local into ProjectWise. So this is a reason not to delete it on your local F drive. We're going to bring it in and start it again on ProjectWise, so it functions on ProjectWise now from its former spot. So let's open another way, how they recommend sometimes. Let me check in my design file. Let's go up to sitemaps. I'm going to check my data shortcuts. Let's go to Edgewater. We'll open it this way by, I just double left clicked. Okay. So let's see if we can knock out this last step to bring everything to ProjectWise now. So my surface is in here. This is where the source is. This is where the actual surface is. First things first, let's reference these materials. So navigate to the ribbon. We'll do that in a second. Select import. This is the first step 2, 3. We're going to the local source where the data shortcut is. An error will appear. If there's none, there should find one. I'm going to go do that now. So we have our surface. This is what I'm going to data shortcut. Let's also open the other drawing that I'm doing a data shortcut in. and just say copy out. This is more so you can see what's going on in your files. So opening. Okay. The one thing I do want to test is, so see how my sheet set before I do my data shortcuts is kind of not finding these now. It's a little confused. You might have to do some association to don't remove them. So, see, it had just found them earlier. Now they're not. So if I open, for example, the design drawing, one more time, this is worth seeing because sheet sets are pretty common, and hit copy out. You can see the sheet set's functioning just fine in this drawing that I got it to work right. So sheet sets, there's some bugs, but generally try to open them through ProjectWise. I did it in the sheet production folder, and you'll have better results. Eventually, you might get it so you can keep opening it this way. This is the other way to open it. Is I'll do that again. Is through the sheet set manager. Hit open, and then navigate ProjectWise. Here's my sheet sets. It might not hurt just to open this one this way to show the difference. There's Panhandle and Edgewater. Just to copy out, not check out. Let's take a look at it. So running the scan utility prior helps with this too. So this one's mostly working. It's found everything -1. It's looking for a design drawing. So you might have some flaws potentially with this. Let me hit close the sheet set. And this is one where if you double click on it to open, you can re-import it through ProjectWise. You should get your integrated screen like this, and then go to the drawing in ProjectWise where it's at to repath. Just don't ignore those layouts. So hopefully your sheet set works well. Let's try closing this one. Doesn't really do much. Let's try to open it here by double clicking, or right click, hit open. This is the one I just was having semi good results with a couple errors. Let's let it open through ProjectWise as they recommended. You can see it's checking out. Yes, check it out. You'll be getting used to a lot of these dialog boxes for a bunch of you know, in your workflow. It's like a more advanced Windows Explorer for design applications. So now you can see it's working. So opening your sheet sets through ProjectWise has the best results. You can open them through here to sometimes mix results. So we'll put an end on that one, either opening them by right-click open or double-clicking and letting them open and check out through ProjectWise is a great practice for sheet sets. After, of course, we have ran our scan references and link sets. Do that first. Back to data shortcuts. So the last step with integration from local to ProjectWise are data shortcuts, and we've covered a little bit on them. Where to find the information in this PDF. Start on page 13 generally. Let's start by reviewing this one more time. Okay, some of the biggest things to use is the panel in ProjectWise that installs on your ribbon with your data shortcut project tools. There's some other tools to get used to using with XREFs, title blocks, reloading blocks, sheet sets. You can also open sheet sets this way. There we go. Try open some sheet sets this way and importing and exporting. These have some, oops, excuse me, open and make new sheet sets this way before doing it through this sheet set manager with ProjectWise. Importing and exporting documents, these kind of work the same. This imports objects from files, gives properties ProjectWise. So we're going to mostly stick to these for data shortcuts, but opening sheet sets this way would be a good move too. Opening through ProjectWise, as we just saw, that worked really well. So add another way to do that. So what we're going to do is import a data shortcut project to ProjectWise from local. So we're going to start by, we got to navigate where it is locally. So it was formerly here on the F drive. It was here, it was here, and they're all in this working folder. This one actually had 2 data shortcut folders. Not ideal. They all should have been in one, but it was 2 different designers working at 2 different times. Let's hit OK. Give it a second to import. It did find one. If you don't have any data shortcuts, it'll say error, won't find on your document here. Bring it in, number 5, and it's going to say step user process of making. The key is to make the civil DS proj file. This is like the ProjectWise data shortcut file. This is the key here. And this is about what we're going to do. Okay. Now it's saying, where do you want to put it in ProjectWise? I know it's in this folder, my new uploaded drawing I just did. And I'm going to put it here in the working folder. This is why I wiped out the old local data shortcut files and XMLs, so we can keep this clean and have cleaned it up before it comes to ProjectWise. That was a key step here and a highly recommended step. Have the person that understands the data shortcuts in the projects do these steps. Hit OK. This will create new, this should create both of them. You could do create all. I'm assuming it's going to create both. This, okay, this is saying in this drawing, this is the shortcut name. This is the source drawing where it started. This is the sitemap. This is another sitemap. And the only available data shortcut from the prior place locally is these 2 surfaces. And that's true. I know this project, that is true. And it wants to create new ones. So one of the keys is on document, going back to page 13, is if you have bad data shortcuts and a mess on your local drive, they're not going to improve when you bring them to ProjectWise. So have them dialed in locally, or you're not going to necessarily fix the mess you made locally when it comes to ProjectWise. Just keep that in mind. It's not going to fix those problems for you. So let me hit OK on both of these. Yes. Now checking out document. That's good to see that dialog box. Project, this number was successfully created on ProjectWise. That means it made the data shortcut XML. We can go check it out here. It should have made one right here, okay? With this date timestamp just now. So that's a good sign. Next is to re-up our working folder. Let's see how we got it here. So let's start by, it's just like on a local file structure. When you go to a different project with data shortcuts, you need to go to that different project. So this is on an old one. So we need to set working folder to this new project, which let's get out of these old tests and go where I am. Another reason to keep this clean, delete the old one. We restarted the data shortcut working folder. Give it a second to think. It's transferring the source files. Okay, we still have some errors. So basically this means there's some kind of broken linkage. Let's see what happens when I hit repair broken link. I go to the working folder where it is. Okay, if you run into that, you likely don't have everything pathed. So let's try one more thing. Let's try to import this again from local with some slightly different settings. Let me try one more method to get this going. We're going to re-import it again. Everything in the working folder. It's going through this. Yes, we can even overwrite what we've already made. Saying where do you want it to go? I want it to go here. It says the same name already exists. So one thing to try too, if it doesn't fully show the reference with this error symbol, is try to repair the broken shortcut. So I made the data shortcut. It's now here. It does exist, it's there. It just doesn't seem to be finding the file. So let's try this method, going to where I know this file is located now. And this is if you encounter this. If there was a step, I know it's which dialog box I could have fixed this probably, but this I could see easily happening to others. So I'm navigating where I know this file is, where this Edgewater sitemap is. I'm going to say open to find it. So it found it. So you can find these data shortcuts, repair where they're at, especially if they get renamed. It's a very doable thing. Panhandle, I know it's here. See, it's checked out at the moment. Say open. I refound them. So one of the keys is we have everything relinked. If you have to manually do that, it's just a repair broken reference. So you can remove these now. You can create new data shortcuts. There's no more to be created. So let's say I remove this one. It's gone. They work a lot like working on a local drive. Oh, you got to save it first. You got to always save the source file. It hasn't been saved in ProjectWise yet. So in that case, you need to update server copy while you're still in it. It's like saving it to the server, but you're still in it. It's a little confusing, but that should take care of it. Never mind on that. So let's simulate this one more time and do this all over again just to see the difference. So you saw some ways to troubleshoot if you didn't have everything perfect. You can repair broken reference. Let's set this working folder to somewhere else to simulate this. Let's just say it's this place. It's going to wipe out. That's because there is no data shortcuts in there. Let's go to ProjectWise, the one we just made here. Let's wipe it out. Has this one dependency. You should see dependencies to the data shortcut. Let's wipe it out. Let's try this again. So I wiped out the file. Let's import it again from local. I know they're both in here, everything. This is why this has to be done kind of by someone who knows the project well. This is probably not an IT task. It's probably whoever knows this project the best. This last task. All the other tasks probably IT could tackle prior to you touching this job. So we're going to move it to the ProjectWise location from local. I know it's here. Let's hit OK. It's going to take a second. This is the key step. I think we could do some alterations to. Let's grab both of these. Let's hit its resolved path. Let's hit create all into the same working folder. It's going to where they're at. So it's trying to reestablish the references to the source files. This is a little bit of a tricky part. That's Edgewater. That's where I know it's going. Just kind of curious on this one. Try to hit the path here, path to existing, original file, Edgewater. There, I really wanted to get this dialog box to ProjectWise, so I don't have to go through my local document server. Edgewater. It is there. Path to existing, the original file. Okay, I'm resetting the paths. So this appears to be essential, kind of. You got to tell it where these things are. I'm not making a new one. I'm going to an existing one. Panhandle to reset up my data shortcuts. So I have my shortcut type. My shortcut name is this drawing file. The shortcut type is surfaces. This is the shortcut name of the Civil 3D object, which is this surface. This is what the surface is named. This is a surface. You might have alignments in here, profiles, all kinds of stuff. This is the original file. The bind type is existing, and this is the path I just resolved. So this is kind of key. This part, honestly, it's gonna have to be done on a project by project. So the person that knows the project the best is gonna be best suited for this. And when I hit OK, everything should be set. So I don't think I got all those nailed the last time. I was able to resolve them by right-clicking and say repair broken references and go to find them that way. But this would be the preferred method, I would think. Let's hit OK. It's checking in docs. Successfully imported. So it made my data shortcut. This is a good sign on the ProjectWise. You can check by going here. Here it is. I made another one, and I'm seeing these are what we want to see. Yes, you want to see those references I just made to the site maps. So I had 2 data shortcuts. So that step prior with all those columns, that was essential. Now, if I go to the working folder, I have it in some dummy working folder. I'm going to go to the one I want, just like your local, set the working folder to this job. This is hopefully going to prove that they're good to go. They're here. And just to confirm, that is what I'm looking for, this XML, this file I just made, data shortcut style from local. Hit OK. Boom. They are found without errors, so I don't have to repair those broken references. So I did it up front in that previous dialog box, whereas the first go round, that was actually good to see. It had the error symbol. I had to, it's not an option here, but in this source drawing, I could repair the broken reference that way. So I have my pathing through my C drive local server that's connected to ProjectWise, that's good to see. You need to see this pathing to your working folder. Yeah, I'm in my source drawing where I made this shortcut. Here it is here. And now I can go into Edgewater Design, and you could consume that data shortcut elsewhere. I already have one in here as Edgewater, but I could create reference of this other surface just to show you it's working again. Copy out, and it should be off in space somewhere. Here it is. So I just created a data shortcut through ProjectWise to this surface. So it's working. That's it on everything. IT can do most of the steps for you to get things going. The only step I'd recommend for sure that the person yourself most familiar with the project would do would be the cleaning out, deleting old data shortcut, working folder stuff, importing it once again from its local place, the F drive, with this menu here. Delete it first on ProjectWise once it's uploaded, then import it from local, give its location to ProjectWise. It's that dialog box that you repath to where the sources are and what data shortcuts is important, as you saw, to try to do your best to do that. That's going to be a hard part if you have a complex drawing. Otherwise, you got to do it later, as you saw prior, with right-clicking and saying repair broken references to the data shortcuts, which you can do. You can go to ProjectWise, navigate to them. So a couple ways. The person that knows them the best, I'd recommend that. Everything else could possibly be done with IT to start. When your data shortcut comes in, with good health, it should show the references it's going to. You should see the references to drawings, the source drawings that's shortcutting for other drawings. That's what you want. You could almost check this first before going into the drawings to see if it had success. Okay, that's all I have for tips and tricks, mainly from start to finish to bring local to ProjectWise. There are more tips and tricks here. We mostly covered the back end of this, 13 through 34. Exporting models doesn't really apply. There are some tips here on the bottom about sheet sets I applied down here in 6.0. These pay to look at. We learned some of them. Opening a sheet set through ProjectWise is the way to go to queue it up. The DST. There's some system variables you can run to do various things with the sheet set here on page 29. There is some golden rule stuff. One or two I will mention. The first one is do not work on project files outside of ProjectWise and then export them back, export the documents and then import them back in after you've edited them locally. That just kind of makes sense. Like, I've tested it. ProjectWise is pretty smart between your local and ProjectWise. It can usually figure out which one's current and keep it, but I don't recommend doing that. So like editing a drawing locally, then bring it back to ProjectWise, just don't do that. Try to keep all those dependencies live on ProjectWise. If you're bringing it locally, editing it, and bringing it back, you're going to probably suffer some problems, especially if your drawing has a lot of complex dependencies. That's a good rule. Some things about when you open your open actions, when you right click open, you can get really granular about saying which version opens each DWG, for example. That's a little deeper that IT and myself can help you with. You can give a specific application here for DWGs, very specific. They have every type of Bentley product under the sun there too. That's a good one, but a little deeper. Publishing, so turning off background publish to improve performance sometimes helps. I don't like having background publish turned off because it takes up your screen. Like if you hit plot, here we go, and I hit So background publish or plot happens in the background. So once you hit plot or publish, you can continue working. If you don't have it on, it has a little dialog box that comes up and stops you. It publishes in the background here. I like it so I can keep working. ProjectWise is saying sometimes you have performance gains if you turn that off, but you do suffer that a dialog box comes up here, takes over your screen. If you have 20 sheets, it will print one at a time. That's up to you. I've seen some gains from that. Anything else here? There are some commands down here specific to ProjectWise. We haven't got into all these, but I think generally you got the Cliff Notes going forward for taking things local to ProjectWise.